Hey nerds! It's Geeks of Cascadia. Geeks of Cascadia. Geeks of Cascadia. Exclusive tabletop game podcast for the Pacific Northwest. All levels of gamers. Analog gaming. Tabletop news. Dungeons and Dragons and magic. Stupid, mindless banter.
There will definitely be some. That's probably our best. That's our best feature.
You are listening to the Geeks of Cascadia podcast.
Hey geeks, Blue Samurai here. I am with...
Rebeculus, and I am with...
I am still Paul.
And you are listening to episode 50, dang it.
59.
59 of Geeks of Cascadia. And we got a great show for you today.
Yes, we do.
We're doing Behind the DM Screen.
Yes.
And our subject today is...
Downtime.
Yes.
Things will be
Downtime.
great when you're
Downtime.
downtime.
Stop singing. All right, so we're gonna, before we do that, though, we do have con news for you, so...
Well, there's not a whole lot of con news going on. I have a little bit of stuff to talk about, though.
Okay.
Okay, so we have coming up locally, we've got Geekcraft Expo in Seattle. That is November 29th through December 1st in Seattle, Washington. It looks super cool. It's a bunch of local crafters making their nerdy stuff. Stuff I like to buy, stuff you like to buy. Go check it out.
Such as? Can you give an example of a
Such
craft?
as, maybe, if
Like pot holders and things like that?
for holding your pot, yeah. There's all kinds of things for holding your pot. What is Geekcraft Expo?
Quilts? Are there quilts?
There's really no pictures of
Is there
anything or any
macrame?
vendors. There might be some macrame things. I don't know. It's geek stuff.
Okay.
And it's at the Magnuson
You sound
Center.
unsure.
Because I changed my pages. I'm sorry. I'm not very prepared today.
Wow.
Usually you are.
I'm usually super prepared.
I know, this is kind of weird.
Anyway, go to geekcraftexpo.com and click on the Seattle link, and it will show you where to go. That is November 29th through
Hey.
December 1st. Whoa.
That's where I'm from. Twin Cities.
Twin Cities,
Yeah.
are you really?
That's really... Yes, I am.
That's fantastic.
Minneapolis, yo.
Does that mean you have a twin?
God, I hope not. That'd be bad
Yeah,
for
that'd
the
be bad.
environment and everybody.
Also going on in Seattle, Washington, we have got the Punk Rock Flea Market on December 7th, a day that shall live in infamy. That is at Kings Hall. Looks like it's North Seattle. It's 2929 27th Avenue South, Seattle, Washington. And it's a bunch of cool punk rock stuff, and it's a flea market, so people bring stuff out and sell it. So it's one day.
Do you have to bring punk rock stuff out?
Well, I think that they encourage you to have punk rock stuff, and it goes from noon till 10 p.m. It's underneath the Baker Light Rail Station, Mountain Baker Light Rail Station.
That should be nice.
Oh, it's $1 at the door.
$1?
It's $1.
Forget
yeah.
it.
That's
Jeez,
not
where
very
am I
punk
going to get
rock.
$1?
I'm just going to give them a fake dollar. And the next thing, believe it or not, going on our calendar is OrcaCon.
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 That's our
Do you like OrcaCon? OrcaCon is a place where you go to play games with your friends. It's super fun. Everyone's totally cool and nice.
And there's orcas.
Not
There are
really.
no
There's
orcas.
Dorcas.
But we had 1,200 people, I think, last time.
No, we had
we're-
like 1,400
So
people
we're
last
expecting
time.
more, and
We're expecting to sell out.
we've got a lot of panels.
We've got a lot of panels, and that is January 10th through 12th in Bellevue, Washington. We have a Catan tournament.
Or is it Catan?
I don't
know.
Or is it Catton?
Well, if you know the answer,
Yeah, write
email
us
us at
geeksofcascadia at
geeksofcascadia@gmail.com.
gmail.com or tweet at us, love or hate, either way.
Don't
And
tweet
also
hate. No.
at Geeks of Cascadia.
Or visit our Facebook page at Geeks of Cascadia.
Yes, so you go ahead and like and share stuff if you want. That
Or
would be
text
totally
or
cool.
email still Paul personally. He'll answer all
Yes,
your
yes,
questions.
and yeah.
His phone number
of course. Yes, you don't even know my phone number,
I don't know your phone number.
right? You never
actually.
call me. You never
Just
call
put it
me.
right across here when you.
I will. I'll just put your phone number right there.
And make sure you rate
Yes.
us on iTunes or Google Play or wherever you get your podcasts.
Facebook, please.
Especially
It helps a
you
lot.
from whatever. Do you know how to pronounce that from Wisconsin that's listening to us?
Oh,
Isn't that your neck of the woods?
yeah, it is. Okanamawak.
Yes,
She only speaks Minnesota.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, sure. You betcha.
Anyway, sorry, Paul. Go ahead. Didn't mean to interrupt.
And that's what I got.
All right.
Go to Orcagon, orcagon.org. We're going to put that right here. Get your room. We still got rooms at the room rate, which is great.
Yes.
And I hear we're going to tease very soon our 2020 T-shirt from our artist, Pop Muertes. Follow at Pop Muertes on Instagram.
Nice.
And Facebook.
Tease a T-shirt. How do you tease a T-shirt?
We're going to show you what it looks like, so you get excited for it.
Oh. Thank you for explaining that to me. I probably couldn't figure it out myself, but you know.
So what's going on in tabletop game news?
So very much. Well, I'm sure you remember because I know how you just remember my little sessions here, that this theme this week is games from other countries, and there were so many, and it was hard to choose. So I'm just going to do a little quick spiel on each one of them here, because these are nifty. These are great. And I chose some for you. Let me start off with one of the ones I chose for you. It's called Way of the Samurai. It's from Joseph Farhi, and he's actually French. He's from France.
He's a French samurai.
He's a French samurai. He's from Bordeaux. It's a solo card game. It's why it caught my eye. It's very beautiful. These nice little brown and light-colored cards, and you have battles with different samurais. Depending on what the grid turns up, you choose your weapons, you choose your strategy, and it lasts about 30 minutes. And I love the single card games because I'm by myself a lot. And Way of the Samurai from France. So after that, let's continue with France. And there's a game called Titan. Do you know which planet has Titan as its moon? Let's see how smart you guys.
Jupiter?
You are incorrect, sir. It is Saturn.
Okay.
Saturn's the largest moon. And it's called Titan. The game, it's by Holy Grail Games. It's out of Nancy, France. And it's about people colonizing Titan, and they're strip mining the place. You're supposed to.
Sounds terrible.
I know, it does actually. It looks so beautiful, and I was listening to this video.
You can ruin another planet.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah, that's basically it. But the cool thing about it is there's no game mat or anything. It's a 3D board, and it looks really cool. It looks like an arena, and there's all these little different pieces. It looks like a little coliseum kind of thing. So the board is just the most awesome part of it. Titan out of Nancy, France. Let's see here. Let's move on to Norway, shall we, for this game called Super Club.
Oh.
It is the Football Manager board game. And, boy, you just got to check out their little 2-minute video because
Football or is it football?
it's actually football.
Oh,
yes,
like our football.
yes. This guy in
Wow.
this sweet Norwegian accent is all about American football. Super Club is the name of their company, I guess. Also, 2 to 6 player strategy game. There's a lot of pieces. There's a lot of parts. But if you're into football, I kind of started to glaze over halfway through the video because there's just football.
Some people
football,
really like a lot of
Some
pieces.
people are gonna love this
Yes,
game.
some
I
people
didn't
really
mean
like
to
a lot
make
of
it
pieces.
put a negative spin on that. Some people really are gonna love it. So that's out of Haugesund, Norway. Sorry, Norway.
I'm sure
I'm
that's 100%
sorry.
correct.
Yeah. So right next to Norway is Canada, right?
Yes, yeah, they're both
That's
about the
right.
same latitude.
Our little neighbor to the north. There's a couple games that caught my eye. This one, okay, everyone knows Mahjong, right?
Uh-huh,
Your parents, your grandparents played Mahjong. You should know, right?
Wow. Again.
So this sweet little couple from Toronto, Canada, have come up with a card game based on that. It's called Not Your Mahjong.
Oh, nice.
And it's super cute. It's 3 to 4 players, ages 12 to 112. So if you're 113,
You can't
really
play.
forget it.
You're
You
past
can't
it.
do
No.
it. It takes about 30 minutes. It'll look kind of cool. You get your pairs and your triads, and then there's strategies, and it's Mahjong. 3 trio and I don't know. Don't be dirty. That's
not
there's
dirty.
Oh, it wasn't? Oh, was that just in my brain?
Maybe.
Probably.
Not your Mahjong. It's called. I can't stop giggling. Okay, also from Canada, Peterborough, Canada, Ugly Christmas Sweaters game. Because the holidays are coming up, so this will be apropos. It's an ugly Christmas sweater game, and it's super cute. It's a trick-taking, card drafting, sweater crafting card game for 2 to 4 players. It's not real sweaters. You're not going to get a real sweater out of it, just in
that's too
case.
bad.
I know, I was all excited. But you do make sweaters out of your little
Sounds
cards.
like a good
and
thing to play at a white elephant party or
Or
a
bring
it
us a gift to
certainly
whatever
does,
party.
sir.
There you go.
It's called Ugly Christmas Sweaters. Check it out. Let's see, what country? Give me a country. Give me another one.
Denmark?
Macedonia, you say?
Yes.
Also.
Been there.
Also, have you?
Yes.
Have you? Well, they must have seen you because this game is
Lots of
called
time there.
Small Samurai Empires. And it's out of, okay, if you've been there, how do you pronounce
Skopje.
Skopje. Really? You're just making that up.
No,
he knows.
flew in there.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool. Well, anyway, named after our own Blue Samurai, this game is called Small Samurai Empires.
Wow.
The empires that are small.
They remember him from when he was there.
Lead your samurai to glory in this action programming area control strategy board game for 2 to 4 players. Looked really cool. Again, really cool cards, really pretty matte and graphics and everything. You play over 3 eras, and that's the time periods in the game. You don't play over 3 eras because you're just going to be there forever.
Yeah, that's right.
That would take way too long. And you take score after each era, and whoever wins at the end. Scoring is how many lands you've acquired and what you've put on those lands. There's a planning phase, a resolution phase, and it's just cool. Small Samurai Empires, cute little pieces too. Let's see. Macedonia. There is a very lovely game for those of you who are a little more chill and don't want to conquer countries or anything. It's called Tranquility, and it's out of the UK by Board Game Hub. It's a cooperative card game. It's just cards. There's no words on these cards. They're just boat cards and island cards and other things cards. And you're just trying to get your boat. You're all on this boat called the Tranquility. They named it that. It's also a tranquil game, and you're trying to get your boat to an island before you run out of action cards, and so you're all kind of working together. I guess as soon as you run out of action cards, you sink or flutter around in the ocean forever. So Tranquility, that's not very tranquil. So that was kind of cute. Hold on, a couple more. I'm not done. We have also UK. It's a game called Burglar, which looks so cool to me. So the board is set up like an overhead view of a room. It's kind of like a clue thing. You're trying to find these 3 different parts of the room, but the tiles change each time, and there's things under the tiles, and it's kind of like a memory game, but not really. And you have to roll the dice to see who can choose what. If you get a certain roll or a certain card, you can move. There's furniture over these tiles. You can move the furniture. You got to pick up the 3 required items, and the first one that does that gets out of the room, wins the game. So it looks super cool. It's pretty fast, 2 to 6 players. Oh, they have another little thing in here. It's for ages 6 to 101. So if you're 102 on up, I'm sorry.
Play the other
I'm
game.
sorry.
Aegis games.
Yeah,
Maybe the 102 players on up can play Mahjong or something like that. So Burglar, it actually looks really cool. I kind of want to get that. That looks like fun. Let's see. I might be done. Hold on.
Okay.
Hold on. Oh, I'm not done. How about Poland?
Sure.
Just a
Sure,
couple.
why not? Yeah.
All right, Krakow, Poland. It's a game called Clash of Minds, Holmes versus Moriarty. It's by Creative Maker, Poland. Who knew? Who knew they were making games over in Poland? I didn't. Clash of 2 powerful minds in only 12 hours to solve or commit the crime of the century. It's pretty much a card and token game. There's scheming, there's intriguing, there's bluffing. 2 to 6 players, 30 minutes, although it looks like more. Finally, out of Switzerland. You said Switzerland, didn't you? Here we go.
Yes.
Darwin's Choice. It's called Darwin's Choice. It's the final campaign. It's by Mark It's got an umlaut. He's got an umlaut over his last name. I love that. I love umlauts. It's a pretty game. Cards only. Over 480 hand-drawn animal cards. It's 100% carbon neutral footprint creating this game, and it's 100% sustainably made. I don't know how they do that. Recycled cardboard for their boxes, etc. They already have an expansion pack with more beautiful
Like an old
hand-painted
Game of
cards.
Life, and they changed.
They might have done that. I mean, why not? And Darwin's Choice from Switzerland. It was a long video, but you know, I'm sure it's some survival of the fittest type of situation. That's it. I didn't hit all the countries.
Well, I do want to put in 2 games that are in the tabletop game news.
From which country?
They're not. They're from here, actually.
Okay.
So
Well, we're a country.
The Curse of the House of Rookwood. Sorry, it's an RPG. It's up on Kickstarter. So if you missed that whole Gothic horror during October, if you like Gothic RPG, check that out. Also, for our minis fans out there, new Necromunda and Middle Earth figures are available at pre-order from Games Workshop. I played Necromunda way back when. I'd like to get back into it, so maybe I should check that out. So those are the two things I'd like to give a shout out to.
Would you like to hear my theme for the next podcast game review?
Sure.
It's going to be, I kind of let in with Darwin's Choice. It's going to be games that are ecologically and environmentally conscious.
Oh,
Conscientious?
very nice.
Conscientious.
Sure.
Very nice.
Whatever. Good for the environment.
Well, I think
Stuff
that
like
wraps
that.
up for the news and con news. So why don't we get right into behind the DM screen and check out what to do when you're in between adventures.
Right? Sounds great.
All right, let's
Cool.
do that right about now. Hey geeks, Blue Samurai here. You are at the segment called Behind the DM Screen, and I am with.
I'm Rebeculous.
I'm Steve.
I'm still Paul.
And as you know, we've got our guest host here, Steve Morawick. Thank you, Steve, for showing up again. I really
Yeah.
appreciate that. You're kind of our resident D&D expert on this.
Sorry.
It's true, you are. Today we're going to talk about Downtime. And just really briefly, Downtime is basically kind of what you do in between adventures. Actually, Downtime has been around for the first edition D&D, but back then there was really no official rules. It was kind of like, hey Steve, I'm a 12th level fighter and I've got 1,000,000 gold pieces. I like to build a castle, and then I'd work with Steve, and
The DMG had rules or had costs for all the bits of the castle.
That's right.
You did also have training time in the old days, although that got ignored a lot.
It
where you would by level, and I think you'd get a rating for how well you role played, and there was some formula like Arcane Editions had, and it determined, you might have rolled a d4, I think, in there
Right.
too, and that determined how many weeks you would have to train with somebody to gain that level.
A lot of it was just kind of just talking to the DM back in the day. Really not any formal rules. There was a little bit, but now it's kind of spelled out for you with 5th edition. I kind of like the 5th edition rules on Downtime. But basically, let's just get down into it. The fact that Downtime really consists of 3 things. One is there's going to be a lifestyle cost and expenses. Any type of downtime that you do, maybe it's training, maybe it's gaining a skill, which is basically the same thing, running a business, et cetera, et cetera. The other thing is what the actual activity is, what are you going to gain from them. Let's say you want to make a magic item. Well, obviously the end result is some kind of a magic item. And then lastly is the story and role play behind it. Did you fail in your quest to create a magical item? Did you gain a rival, a complication? And what does that mean for your character? So really, those are the 3 elements of what it takes for Downtime. And it's really, again, spelled out in the rules that you have. And but we'll go into that a little bit later. Steve, you want to talk a little bit about maybe into the lifestyle costs and expenses that go into this?
Sure, why don't I?
Okay. Following our little outline here.
Yeah. So your lifestyle expenses are basically, your character might be, a noble, could be a pauper, could be middle class, whatever, depending on, a lot of this will come out of the background too. I mean, if you're an urchin, you're probably lower. But it's just a cost per day to live.
Right.
You
And we
know?
haven't gone into activities. This is kind of more of like outside the general activities costs.
Yeah, and this is kind of, there's not a lot of things to spend money on in D&D
Right.
5th edition, so here's one of them. It's essentially a breath tax you can give to your players, and if they want to live in some extravagant manner, you can say, hey, that's 10 gold pieces a day. If they want to live, normal person, that's like maybe a gold piece a day, and if they want to live in an alley and eat rats they catch and whatever happens to be floating by in the gutter, you can do
That's-
that for free.
That sounds
Why not?
great.
Yeah.
Wow, that's free. I should have chosen that one.
I know. Well,
And this is the type of downtime that Like
Freaking druids.
it's kind of like just before a campaign starts, or just after we're going. Hey DM, I got some money. Can I go buy a piece of armor? This is not magical stuff. This is kind of your basic stuff.
Your
when you
basic
go in the
stuff,
town.
and there's rules for like, hey, I want to buy a hunk of cheese. Okay, that's 1 silver
Right.
piece. That's been around. Some of the older editions had great lists of not really equipment but stores and all that. There's a reasonable, mostly it's I think a guideline for people who want to buy things. Hey, how much is that going to cost?
And you can find those in the Player's Handbook and DM's Guide, usually in Chapter 5, the Player's Handbook, Chapter 6 of the DM's Guide.
Yeah, pretty much anything between a hunk of cheese or, fortress.
Right.
Steve,
do you have any guidelines that you do when, let's say, when we come to you and say if we want to buy something, you just say, hey, just check it out, the Player's Handbook, or if we want to sell something, you could take 50%
the kind
off.
of de facto standard has always been, if it's in the Player's Handbook, you can buy it. If it's reasonable in the Player's Handbook, I mean, if you say, hey, I want to buy 8 million chickens, then no.
Right.
I don't care if you have the money for that. You're not going to find 8 million chickens.
Right.
But, for the most part, you can buy things in the Player's Handbook for cost, and you can sell them back for half cost.
Do you ever use persuasion checks for maybe selling or buying items at all?
Only if it's something weird,
Okay.
If it's like a straight, I'm going to buy a sling, no.
Okay.
But if you're looking for something special, like, hey, I want an ivory-handled dagger because that fits my character, you might get into the little bit of, searching around, asking around, and then haggling with somebody or something, or, whatever.
Yeah, I mean, that's like if Paul wants 50 daggers.
Yeah.
And
Paul has 50 daggers. He doesn't need
just
more.
just adds them into the
Yeah.
D&D Beyond. So where can you find these rules? Basically, right there in the DM's Guide in Chapter 6, the Player's Handbook, Chapter 8.
5.
What is it, 5?
Oh, wait, no, 5 is equipment.
Okay. The one that's really good is the Xanathar's Guide to Everything. I love how they kind of play out the downtime rules. And when I say downtime rules, now we're getting into actual activities that you do that gain something for your character.
Yeah, there's a reason they call that chapter Revisiting Downtime, because
Yes.
they clear it all up.
They do.
So the first time we did it, I read the Player's Handbook, and it's like I didn't want to do it. It didn't sound fun. I didn't know what I was doing because I didn't read Xanathar's Guide rules.
It's really good. Out of the Abyss has one on some outpost, building an outpost in the Underdark. Check that out. Waterdeep Dragon Heist touches a little bit about running a tavern. Acquisitions Incorporated. Paul's going to touch about that a little bit later on that. Ghost of Saltmarsh actually has a few things in it, kind of really campaign specific. But let's talk about downtime mechanics really quickly. And basically, it really consists of about 5 things. So first is the activity, what you are doing. So, for example, I want to craft a magic item. The second thing is the resources. And the resources is an element of different things. It could be time, money, location, contact. Let's say I want to craft that magical item. Well, maybe... And actually, here's a good scenario because I did this with Steve. When Steve, I wanted to create these goggles of the night, which allows me to see dark vision. But I didn't have the skills because you asked me, do you have any skills and I think any tool making?
Do you have anything that could justify you making?
That's right, Smith tools or
goggles,
something like that.
Yeah, I mean, there's the physical part and then there's the magical part. So I think you outsourced the physical part.
Right. And so I had to find someone to actually build them, but then I did the magic-y thing to it to make it happen. I enchanted them. So really, you've got to work with the DM, the player, on how you're going to get this stuff. I mean, if you're in Waterdeep, maybe that's easy, but if you're in a smaller town or in the wilderness, no, you probably won't be able to do that. Also, the resolution. You're going to have to do some DC checks to, whether it be Arcana or History or whatever. If something physical, then maybe acrobatics or athletics. And then what is the end result? That's the complication. If you failed, is there a rival involved? So a lot of these are sometimes spelled out very, very well for you in Xanathar. Some of them are not, but that's basically what it boils down to.
It's pretty easy to to kind of, once you just start talking with the player and like, what are you trying to do? It's pretty easy to just kind of go, okay, well, that's not really covered, but I'll make this check. And you can, sometimes you'll miss checks or whatever, but you can roll it over. Well, it didn't happen this week, but you've made some progress, so I'll let you have another try at it next week.
Right.
Always a chance of a complication, but
Yeah,
how
that's
things
true.
go.
That's real life too.
That's just
Yeah.
life.
That's
yes.
right. When I make a magic item, sometimes I don't get it right the first week.
Yeah.
You're never wrong.
Try to learn language.
that's
I
right.
find that to be kind of tough.
The next thing you need to do is story arcs, story hooks, side quests. Don't make this, kind of a black and white. You just do this, you do this role, and out comes your widget. Really, kind of make it fun. Add some story to it. Come up with something. Work with the player. I know Steve and I, we had some things going on with your character.
And this is a good opportunity for when the group's playing together, the group is playing the group story. And you're interacting and you have your story arc for the group. But it can be a really good opportunity for individual story arcs where I have stuff that I do when I'm not out adventuring with the rest of the party that can center around what I'm doing. And can kind of carry on, okay, well, you've finished out some adventure or something, you move on to another, and you have some downtime. And you can kind of keep that, your own story, kind of intertwined with the main, kind of separate from the main story.
Right.
But things can then kind of intersect a bit.
Yeah, for one is with Rebeculus here. We had she had the downtime of working with her temple. Her character was like a believer of Bahamut, so it kind of threw me off because one, I got like, is there even a temple here in Waterdeep? Which there is, by the way, a small one. And what does she gain out of it? And who is the other person that she's working with? So you have to I had to create an NPC, right?
Yeah.
Like a kind of a priestess, and where does that go? So. Yeah, we did a little story arc with you, and her story actually kind of grew. Her character background grew a little bit because of it. One thing before we go into actual rules is Steve and I, we kind of did it differently. Steve, we actually, with you, we did a sit-down session. We went round robin, which was really good. And then with me, because there was another campaign going, I kind of did one-on-one with the character. Either way works. It really depends on the time that you have. I did like it round robin a little bit because we got to know which other people are doing.
Got to see what the others are doing. I like that too.
The way I did it, it allowed me to kind of do a lot of writing. I do like to write a lot and expand and do storytelling.
What?
Yeah, I
You?
know, crazy.
No.
So it allowed me to do that. So really, either way, it works. Steve is just really good being on his toes. He's been a DM for a long time, so he can do that.
Just
He was
make
born a
things up
DM.
as I
That's
go
right, he's
along.
born a DM, that's right. Umbilical cord in the DM's handbook right there. Okay, so let's go. Okay, go ahead.
And one more little point I was going to throw onto that.
Sure.
When I talk about things intersecting, you mentioned, made up NPC for this. You're going to probably end up making NPCs for a lot of this stuff.
Right.
A lot of these things will interact. You'll need other characters, especially when you're carousing, which is really making contacts. And so you're gonna know all these people that your character knows that the others don't. So in a situation when at the game table when the whole party's playing, instead of going, hey, do I know anybody who does this that I can lean on, and DM saying, oh, okay, yeah, make a roll, somebody. DM can put you in a situation and everybody's like, oh, we need somebody who can do this, and one of the players sitting there can go, hey, I know a guy.
Right.
And be the one, instead of the DM saying a guy, be the one to bring up, hey, I know a guy who can do this for us.
We had a really good example when your character went carousing, gained a contact, and because you gained a contact that worked at the Blackstaff Academy, you were able to get a job, and that transitioned to another downtime activity, just work.
Yeah.
And you were getting money. And as
I don't know why I would ever spend my D&D time working.
right.
But apparently I did.
Well, and for if you really play by the rules in terms of like if you're a wizard and you got to scribe scrolls, you're always spending a lot of money, and so you always got to find money. It's the wizard who has the lowest hit points and the least amount of gold, and so they're always struggling. So let's go into the actual downtime examples that are set in the rules, and then maybe we'll go into some homebrew stuff. So really quickly, we'll talk about, if you follow the how a downtime mechanics work, quick the activity, the resources, the resolution, maybe the complications, and maybe if you have any personal experiences to any of this. So Steve, we'll kick it off with you. Build a stronghold. Those are for your high level characters, though.
Yes, that is. And really, building a stronghold's pretty simple. You gain a lot of money, and then you say, I want to build a stronghold. Now, part of it, I don't think it really goes too much into detail, but it gives you a few guidelines on. Well, first off, you're gonna have to somewhere you can build your
I was going to
stronghold.
say, is
Right.
that assuming you have land, or do you have to
Yes,
buy
there's
the
the other
land?
thing too,
probably,
right?
There's not really rules for that, but there's it talks about being able to buy deeds, or you can inherit them. It's pretty sparse, but generally when you're playing, you're going to know the situation you're in. If you guys are all still kind of, if you're murder hobos and
Right.
you have to run from the law every time you see it, you're probably not going to be able to get that deed for land. But if you've done good deeds for a certain kingdom or things like that, by the time you're really powerful enough to build a stronghold or something, you probably know you're going to be contacting to
Right.
be able to get rights to the
And
land.
there's also rules in there about, it doesn't have to be a stronghold. It could be maybe you want to.
Yeah, it can
buy
be a temple, an
temple,
abbey, an estate, all these things. But it's essentially the same thing. You're
Right.
building a thing, and somebody has to give you the rights, or you have to have rights to a place that can build it. They give you, this should cost about X amount of money, take about X amount of time to build.
And that one's in the DM's guide, so it's not. There's not a lot to it. It's basically you have the money, the time, you kind of build something. Not a lot of die rolls involved with that. How about buying a magic item, Steve? That's in the Xanathar's guide to everything.
Yeah, the way it goes in there is essentially you can put forth money into trying to track down magic items to buy. You make like a persuasion check, and it's got rules for that. And then you're gonna roll essentially kind of D4 times on a magic item table. Higher the better for your roll. And then randomly it'll determine by rarity how much does this cost.
Right.
Does it have to be like
pretty-
a magic item, that your character would be able to use? I wouldn't want to.
Like what we've done,
scroll or
what
something,
we
you know
were
what I mean?
doing essentially is people going, hey, I'm going to put my, and we were in Waterdeep, so you could feasibly do this, and a guy who knows people.
Yeah.
So just kind of putting out feelers for, hey, what do you have that I could buy? And so then...
Right.
Yeah. I rolled something
Yeah.
that Ranger could use, or
Right.
Yeah.
As I recall, I think the way we did it is a character says, I want
Which
to
one I am in this campaign.
a character wants to buy something from this contact, and then I think you rolled something, and then there was
Yeah, it was essentially
a list
rolling
of things.
randomly on a table
Right.
to see what was there.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's like, hey, you could get this,
I guess there's a
figurine
bunch of
wondrous
things
power for
every character can use.
for
like
X
rings
amount of
and
money, yes or no, and
boots
then
and things
through
like that.
things. And people were looking for things in particular. I think you got your crossbow.
I
pretty
got
much.
I got my crossbow.
Nobody else really got what they were asking for,
Yeah.
but there was the whole everybody's flush with money right now.
Right.
Yeah, we had so much money. So
So
I rolled
it's like,
something you could use,
oh, well,
so I bought it for you.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's right. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Did I thank you for that? Thanks.
I think so.
Okay, then.
So let's go into carousing now. There's two, because the DM's guide came out first before Xanathar's guide. There is a little bit division there. The carousing of the DM's guide is more about gambling versus Xanathar's guide is more about making contact. Steve, you want to?
I thought
Go ahead and go
carousing
into
was
that.
womanizing. I guess not.
No.
It's just
carousing.
it's really about going
making
out and
contact.
meeting people. And again, carousing is a great way of making contacts and knowing people that you kind of hang out with. You got some type of probably just shallow but relationship with. You know them. You can go, hey, talk to them. They'll know who you are, and that's one of those things that can be really useful for the campaign because
Right.
maybe this contact you made is an NPC that's going to be featured in the adventure coming up or some other adventure coming up. Maybe it's somebody who can do things for you, all these things. And so that can really end up impacting play. For the most part, I mean, you can make enemies, you can get beat up if you have complications and all this. It's actually got a bunch of tables,
Right.
which are kind of cool, different complications for different social classes.
And that's
But-
what you got to do first, right? Choose what level you want to. I want to do carousing at the low level, kind of middle class level, and the noble level. And I think there was a gold piece attributed to each level that you had to pay.
Yeah, it costs a certain amount of money to go bar hopping at each level. Depends
Yeah, it
on the
does.
dive bar or the really nice bars.
Right.
But really, it is all about introducing more NPCs into the campaign, and they can be for fun and just an interesting person. They can end up getting tied into a plot hook by the DM.
Right.
They can be somebody that's a resource. You suddenly, I need to talk to somebody at the Blackstaff Academy, and hey, I know a guy.
Right.
So it's really useful for the DM on the carousing contacts to kind of give them ins into the actual play that'll happen.
And remember, folks, that you can only. I mean, you can DM and player can do whatever they want once they agree to, but you can only have so many contacts based upon your charisma modifier. So keep that in mind. 1 plus your charisma modifier. But I mean, that kind of makes sense, right? If you're not persuasive, you're not a good person.
Makes perfect sense.
Why would I hang out with you, right? So I have
So
3 of
just
my friends
spend
right here. So I have about
$200 at the
+3
bar
charisma
buying you
modifier.
drinks. That's why.
That's
See,
right.
the first time we did it for your campaign, I misunderstood what carousing was. That's actually what I wanted
You
to
thought
do.
it was womanizing.
Yeah, I thought it was womanizing.
Right.
And so
It is not.
And so I kind of made up a thing and didn't
Although
really
it
help me
can
make
be.
it up.
That's right. It can be. That's right.
Women know things too.
Yes.
It's not
course
just
it
I know
is.
a
Steve's
guy.
character had an incident. Yes.
I made a hostile contact.
That's right. So going into the next things that I got on my list here is crafting non-magical items. Again, that is in the, well, I guess I haven't said it before, but it's in the player's handbook. And that is pretty straightforward. You spend, and these are non-magical items, you spend a bunch of money on a particular item. I think it's about 50% of the actual, what's actually cost. Because I think plate armor is about $1,500. That's the market value. And it would take about, according to the rules, maybe half of that, so $750, and then poof, you get the magical item. So it's pretty simple, provided you have non-magical item, provided you have the skills.
Yeah.
So just because you a great person got the money, no, you got to have proficiency in smith tools. Now,
If you roll just exactly what you needed, the DM is entirely in the right for people to comment on your kind of cheap-looking armor you made yourself.
Right.
But
well,
it's worth it to save 750 gold, I'm sure.
What I did was we have a player, a friend of ours, Bill, who's in there, and he actually did this. He wanted to build something, but what I did is I actually made him roll. So it's kind of homebrewed, kind of the easy DC level rolled because he had proficiency in smith tools, but I felt he still had to roll on that. Crafting a magical item is a little different, and that's really spelled out. I would ask people to look at the Xanathar's Guide to Everything on crafting magical items, because it's really broken down to the simple magical items you can do relatively is like potions and scrolls. Those are really easy. It takes a amount of time. Basically, they're done. I mean, there's not much to that. You will have to pay a cost. The actual magical item, let's say a sword, a piece of armor, equipment,
Boots.
that takes a little bit more,
Yes.
depending on the level. If it's a common item or uncommon item, maybe your DM will get away with, hey, you know what? You don't have to get, a fire elementals, to put in this sword because you just got something simple. I'll let you cast a simple spell on a very expensive piece of artwork, then you get the magical item. But the harder and the rarer the item, then that's when the DM is going to kind of have to come up with really a set of ingredients, if you will, for like I said, if you have a flame tongue, if you want your character wants to do that, then maybe you're going to have to like slay a fire elemental. You're going to have to maybe get lava. I don't know what you got to do.
Yeah,
Oh, so
it's
you
like-
don't you don't make the thing first and then make it magical after. You have to use magical ingredients.
Well, you can make
or
most
materials.
of the thing, and then you're like, oh, now I have to add this Beholder's Eye stock, but you can't just roll for the Beholder's Eye stock. It's like you got to go find one.
Right.
Well, which means
You're gonna die.
you're gonna die.
Right. And you have to do some
Um,
die rolls too to actually get it. And
Yeah, you don't want to screw up your Beholder's Eye stock once you
that's
run
right.
out. You gotta go get another one. Run down to the hardware store on your project again.
Just get a bunch all at once.
Right. And if you look in Xanthar's Guide, it actually has a really good breakdown on what type of challenge rating it should be. Let's say if you want to do a rare item, the challenge rating of these ingredients should come from a challenge rating 9 or 12. That's pretty high up.
Yeah.
That could get yourself killed. But, those magical items are rare, so it should be hard to put together. But it's all down there. Also tells you how long it takes. So if you have a common item, maybe it just takes 1 week. If you have a very rare item, it takes 25 weeks. And, of course, there's a cost attributed to that. There can be complications that arise if you maybe roll poorly. Maybe you made somebody mad because you killed their dad. I don't know, or you did something that infuriated somebody. Like if you got a great example, you said Beholder Eye stock. Well, maybe other beholders found out about it and he wants to kill you. I don't know.
And like most of these, they have some like reasonable tables for all this stuff. But as a DM, you can just kind of go, I'm going to come up with this thing that better fits the situation.
Have you made up your own complications
Certainly.
with us? I can't think of anything. I love the complications for almost every activity at
Right.
Downtime, right?
Yeah, and you can, and you're right. You don't have to go by the rules. For example, making a potion of supreme healing costs 10,000 gold pieces in 4 weeks. I think I would probably
never
say
pay that.
no.
No.
I'd say maybe 1,000 or something. It's really up to you. But that's what I have. And Paul, you did some. You've got crime on your.
Yeah, crime. Crime is.
Of course you do.
Of course I do, because that's how I roll. Crime's kind of straightforward. It costs you 25 gold pieces to investigate and make that check to see if you can find somebody that you want to rob, right? And then you choose a DC level that's there's like 3 DC levels. Mm-hmm. You choose which one you want to do, and of course the
Or
higher
you're knocking
one.
over the little old lady,
That's
walking
right.
down the street, taking her
Yeah, you're walking into a bank.
bag of coppers, or
Yeah, so the higher the DC level, the greater the reward. And then you make some rolls, and if you roll, like, if you miss them all, you go to jail. If you make them all, you get full payment, and there's in between, right? So it's really kind of straightforward. It's in the book. It's fun. I like it because I like the gambling. I like the gambling aspect
Right.
of playing Dungeons and Dragons. For me, like rolling the dice is like playing a slot machine. I get the same rush.
If you end up in jail, then do you lose? Do you
I
lose
think you
money?
have
Does
to
it count?
pay to get out of jail,
oh, just like real life.
just like real life.
Yeah.
Another downtime role is gaining renown, and that's really easy. You spend.
What is renown?
What
is renown?
Well,
What do you mean
renown.
gaining
Well, you have
renown?
to look at it's chapter 1 of renown. It's like gaining ranks
People
in a
know
particular
you.
organization. Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
I know what
exactly.
it is. I asked
It's
that
being
on
a
behalf. Yeah.
respected member of some society.
That's right. Or maybe
And
it's
how
gaining
can that
a rank.
and
in
how can
some
that
way.
benefit you in the future?
Well, you can. Let's say if you have a lot of renown in Lord's Alliance, maybe that helps you when you visit another person who's part of the Lord's Alliance, or you need some help if you're with the Harpers. I think you're with the Harpers, right?
No, sir.
No.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Emerald
Oops.
Emerald Enclave,
Emerald
my friend.
Enclave. So you can get help from them.
Hippies.
But if you want to gain renown with them, you want to climb up the rank. Maybe you want to do that. So simply do some minor things for work for them. Maybe you want to intern for a Harper boss. I don't know. It's really up to your DM. But it's in the rules here. For every 10 activities, you gain a renown by 1. So that's one way of doing it. But moving on, gambling. Paul, you talked a little bit about
gambling. Is the thing that
Wow,
I
you
enjoy.
gave Paul all the seedy topics.
Well, that's kind of who I play.
Because he's seedy.
Gambling is super fun. The thing that's best about it is,
Winning.
well, yeah, you can bet up to 1,000 gold pieces per session, per week, I guess. But the DC is random because it's based on who you're gambling against, and you have no idea what the DC is.
Right.
So you're rolling, and you're hoping that you're going to do better. Your 3 rolls, so you're going to do better than that person. Having a gaming set proficiency helps you, but still, there's you just don't know.
Is the DM also rolling to see
Yes.
who you're?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
or is he just?
And the
picking
thing
it?
I really like about the gambling is you have to put up a certain amount of money that you're going to gamble for the week. But if you do really bad, you will lose that plus more.
Plus more.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because gamblers don't just lose the
That's-
money
that's
they
right.
set aside
No, I can make that
to
back. I can
gamble.
make that back at just
They
one more time.
dig in. I like that little bit. I'm like, that's really true.
It's very nice. Yes.
And Paul lucked out. You got some money, so
Oh yeah. Well, I rolled well. I didn't luck out.
that's
It's
right.
a skill.
It's your
Rolling
skill.
is a skill.
That's right.
Is that why you practice before you?
Yes, that's what I do.
I should practice.
So Rebecca, you did some sacred rites.
We did that. We
Yeah.
did that. Yes. So, if your character's kind of pious or leaning towards the religious affiliation, they can you can take part in some sacred rites in a temple or what have you, affiliated with his or her god or goddess. If you're a priest, you can actually lead these rites. If you're a layperson, you can assist the priest with the rites, or you can offer sacrifices in a temple.
Oh, what kind of sacrifices? Human sacrifices?
Sure. I mean,
right.
If that's what your
Halfling
God wants.
sacrifices.
Absolutely. Between these rites, spend your time in prayer and meditation and whatnot. So if you do this for, I guess, at least 10 days of doing this, gains you an inspiration at the start of each day for the next 2d6 days.
Yes.
So
Now,
that's pretty cool.
it is pretty cool, and just keep note that this is kind of split in 2 areas because there's religious. Well, we'll go into that one. There's actually religious services and the one performing sacred rites, and Rebeculus actually did both of those things and gained a little bit of inspiration. You got to be careful because inspiration can be pretty powerful. But on this one, I believe I had you roll on your religion in order to actually make it. So I didn't just give it to you, but you can do that if you wish.
I feel like my sacred rites, I feel like they just had me cleaning the temple. I feel like
Maybe
that's
you
what I
should
was
have been-
doing.
Didn't you
Yeah,
meditate or
yeah, okay. I was meditating.
Could have
too,
been
but-
performing secular services, maybe. And
What kind of services?
secular?
Okay.
Well, the other
Be in the Peace Corps?
the other thing you did was do some pit fighting too, right?
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh,
You
that was
know,
great.
okay, so
Miraculous
I
loves
partly
pit
choose
fighting.
that
And
because
that's the Xanathar
that's what I'm more comfortable with. My character usually say fighters or barbarians, and so I was trying to kind of be in line with what my fighter might do. So pit fighting, plus it's just cool. So, that can be boxing, wrestling, or other non-lethal forms of combat in an organized setting with predetermined matches. But there is a way you could have lethal, like battles to the death,
Oh, you
right?
could,
That's in there. Okay, DM could introduce that, I guess, with whatever
You have to
standard
wrestle this alligator
combat
and-
rules. Wrestling a
shark.
bear.
And a shark,
Wrestling a
right.
bear. This requires 1 work week, and and you have to make a series of checks and rolls with a random DC based on who your opponent is, similar to gambling. And you don't know who your opponent's going to be. So, a strength roll, a dex roll, and a special con check with a bonus. I was confused. With a bonus that equals a roll of the character's largest hit die. I guess that's not that confusing. So you can replace one of these checks. You can replace one of these checks with an attack roll, which I did not know, actually. Did I know that? Did you tell me that?
You actually did
Well,
do that.
Did I do it?
Yeah.
Oh. Did I?
Did you know
We
you
should
did
make
it?
You won.
Probably not.
You won a
He's
little
just-
over half.
This was after your campaign, and he's just frantically coming in here making us roll. So I was rolling under duress. That's why I lost a lot of my matches.
Well, and Paul
You're
rolls
also
rolling
rolling
than you.
against me.
That's right. You're rolling against us.
So let's see. DC for each of these checks is 5 plus 2d10, or you can generate a separate DC for each one. I don't really. So there's complications, which is awesome. And you have to deal with your opponents. You have to deal with the people betting on you. You have to deal with the match promoters and all
You have
these
to deal with
things.
being accused of cheating in a match
Yeah.
that was fixed.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
having
Yep, that is one of them.
being a persona non grata in the pit fighting world.
It's true. And then, of course, there's different complications, just like these other things.
And you
so.
do roll for your money, right? How much, depending on the result, if you win. I think there was.
Yes, and like if you're
'Cause you're working for
successful with
tips.
one roll, you may, sometimes I got half my money. Sometimes I broke even. I feel like I lost a lot. So.
Well, how about what's your next one? I think you've got practicing a profession. That's kind of a
me
weird
too.
one in the player's handbook.
That was kind of weird, and I think I did that. I don't know if that counts when I was like a bouncer. I don't know if that's practicing my profession. But I just, again, keeping in alignment with my character, I just kind of wanted to work between adventures and sock away the money. So if you do that, you can, depending on what you do, you can maintain a modest lifestyle or a comfortable lifestyle or a wealthy lifestyle. And you avoid paying the gold piece per week if you're working.
Right. As a DM, I
that
think I
right?
would wrap that up with work, maybe, perhaps. There's a work downtime rules, and I would count that as that. Maybe I would say that maybe when you're practicing your profession, you get to roll with advantage because you're doing something that you know.
Well, and then if you're a member of one of the temples or thieves guilds or whatever, you can, I guess you can get a little more gainful employment,
Right.
and that affords you the comfortable lifestyle. Or if you have a skill, performance skill or something, then apparently you can support a wealthy lifestyle with that. So that's a good way to go.
Now, in D&D, you always get hurt, get damaged by people and by creatures. So, Paul, what about recuperating?
Well, let's talk about recuperating and relaxation at the same time.
All right.
Because they are so very similar. You're basically just kind of laying around for a week or so, a 10-day, let's say. But you get it with recuperating and relaxation. You get an advantage on saving throws to recover from long-term diseases or poisons. And that's the main thing. Is like if you have a long-term disease or a poison, you probably want to consider doing one of these things because you'll get advantage on saving throws.
Right.
And that's really all you're doing. And for the relaxation, it will also help you end an effect that stops you from regaining hit points.
Yeah, I really have not seen this one used at all.
It doesn't sound very fun.
No.
But if you all are in that condition where you have a disease,
Yeah.
it's probably something you want to do.
That's true. That's true. So you touched on those two. Now we're back to religious service, which is a little different from.
It's a little different from the sacred rites, but it's kind of similar.
That's right. It's the Xanathar's Guide.
Yes, you spend time in service of temple, either by attending rites or going out in the community to convert, like the Mormons do. You just go out and try
Or
and
whatever
convert people.
religion that you want to do, we don't judge here.
Well, they just came to my door the other day, so
It's
I thought
okay.
I'd bring that up. Would you like me to stop talking about
No,
Mormons?
no, go ahead.
So there's a couple requirements. You need access to or attendance at a temple or a place aligned with your character's beliefs. And again, a work week of doing this, and you don't have to pay the gold piece for your weekly expenses. After a week, you choose to make either an intelligence check, unless that's religion, or a charisma check, and the total determines the religious service. So if you roll a 1 through 10, nothing. Like what you did, I guess, doesn't matter. If you roll a 10 to 20, you've earned 1 favor. And if you roll more than 20, I guess that's whatever your modifiers are, you earn 2 favors. And I think I did that, and I have a favor that I haven't used yet. And a favor is the promise of assistance from a representative of the temple. And don't
Or
really
your
know what that is yet.
deity.
Or your deity. They can help you with a specific problem, political or social problem or whatever. 50% cost reduction of spell casting if you're a cleric. I didn't know that. I'm not a cleric. So.
Can that help you with a saving throw?
I don't know all that they can help you
I
with.
think it's probably up to your DM. So if you had a favor and you're in a tight
That's
spot and you
just
get
what
hit
that
with a
says.
disintegration ray and you go, DM, I'd like to use this.
Call in my
favor to Bahamut or whatever
Fluffy.
and see what happens. And your DM will either say yes or no or have you roll, right? Probably.
That's just
Yeah.
exactly what I wrote here. That's exactly. Here we go. Apparently, these favors don't have to be used right away, but you can only store up to 1 favor plus the character's charisma modifier.
Yes, that's true.
That was a weird sentence.
It
to
is
me.
weird.
Okay. And of course, there's complications, which are super cool since temples can be intertwined with political and social scheming and whatnot. So, each week, what do they say, 10% chance of complications. You could offend a priest. You could be blasphemous, even accidentally. Oh, that would be my complication for sure. Secret temple sect offers you a membership. Another temple tries to recruit you to spy. A temple elder wants you to take up a holy quest, or you accidentally discover an important person in the temple is a fiend worshiper, or whatever the DM comes up with. I like these, though. I like these complications. But yeah, that's religious service in a nutshell.
Right. How about research? I know Stevie did a little bit of that.
Yeah, well, when your character is a conspiracy theorist, then then that's the type of thing you do in your spare time. You go around Waterdeep's, YouTubes and find all these things.
That's right.
Yeah, research is pretty simple, really. It's spending a week looking for lore. It costs you like 50 gold. Looking for lore
in all the wrong places. Sorry.
You spend you some money, like 50 gold a week, to just go through libraries and try and find
I
things
thought
out.
libraries were free. That's a lot of money just to go through libraries.
Not in Waterdeep.
Nothing's free.
You can also get bonus for your intelligence. You can also buy more bonuses with a bunch of gold, which we all know wizards have just so much gold lying around.
Yes.
How come wizards
Yeah.
can't just conjure up gold? You're a freaking wizard.
'Cause it
Anyway,
would
that's
destroy the economy.
a side tangent. Sorry.
And then you find between nothing and 3 pieces of lore, which is just true statements about things. Generally, you're going to say, I want to learn about this, and it's a good opportunity. It's a real good opportunity for the DM to be able to give information out.
Right. Maybe another story hook or something.
Yeah, exactly.
I know.
Or clues, because,
Right.
We might be facing this thing. I want to know about it. So clues to maybe weaknesses or habits of things that you can leverage for your advantage, or just world building lore can also be cool.
I know, with your character, you were doing research because it was part of work for this professor at Blackstaff Academy, and I kind of use those tables as when you rolled, I would dig up something and I would write something. You're right, I put little pieces of information that would lead you to the next thing and some clues. So
yeah. Things can go wrong, like anything can go wrong. You can get banned from a library or whatnot. You can
You spill beer on your book.
be cursed from some ancient scroll you found, but and of course the DM can make up your own complication also.
And
Do you guys like making up your own complications better?
yeah, sometimes I like doing that. Yeah, it kind of forces you
It
to.
depends on how
actually.
hilarious
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah. So the next thing is running a business, and that's just straight out of the DM's guide. Or you can also check out Waterdeep Dragon Heist. That's a little thing in there, and running a tavern. But basically, you roll some percentile die, add a modifier depending on how many days of work you can put into it, and out comes a number, and it'll tell you if you met your expenses and if you made some profit. So that's really the simplest way. There's a nice little chart in the Waterdeep Dragon Heist on, what it takes to actually build a tavern, and I found it interesting because you got to do upfront costs. You're dealing with the guilds, especially if you're in Waterdeep. Upfront costs of renovation, and then buying. Actually, you got to buy the material, right? You got to buy the ale and the abyssal chickens to make the chicken. So, and then of course there's expenses in there.
Chicken.
So it's really just straight up just die rolls, and you come up with profit or loss. And then we go to scribing a scroll, which is also pretty straightforward.
Scribing a scroll it is. I'd never really heard of it before. It takes a while, but a spellcaster can transfer a spell to a scroll, creating a spell scroll.
Scroll on or spell on a stick.
Spell on a
basically.
Right.
Time and money to do this relates to the spell level that the character wants to scribe. Cantrip is like 1 day, 15 gold pieces, etc. Up till 9th level spell, 48 work weeks, and 250,000 gold pieces. Wow. I don't even know what that's like. Complications like anything else. You could use the last of the rare ink used to, rare parchment has a little map visit, those kinds of things. Priest accuses you of dark magic. All that stuff. So, scribing a scroll, I will probably never do that.
Well, and once you, I guess, not really selling the scroll, but selling a magical item, but maybe you do want to sell the scroll. I mean, maybe you want to make money.
What
Steve,
do I
how
need
would
a
you do
scroll
that? How
for?
would you do
I
that?
don't need a scroll.
Yeah, I mean, again, you have a certain, I think it's like 25 gold that it costs to to try to do this, to try to find somebody to buy your crappy magic item that you didn't want. And you make a persuasion check, and you're looking for a buyer. Can you find a buyer, and then what's the price of it going to be?
Oh, there you go. And then what if you want to sow rumors around the
Sowing
city?
rumors sounds great. I'm sure you need a good character-driven reason to do this, but it's.
Did you hear that, Paul?
It's 1 gold piece a day. The number of days depend on the settlement size. Then you make a DC 15 charisma save. So your character's going around whatever the size of the settlement is, and telling lies in order to change the way they feel. It's kind of like ads on Facebook.
There you go.
That's wrong. That's just wrong. Why are all your characters wrong?
So what about training? You did a little bit of training, like you can learn a skill, learn a language.
I tried. I guess I was successful eventually, but my was that when I was a barbarian? No, I was a fighter. Language learning was not that easy.
Just go into it.
Where are you going?
I'll keep on going.
All right. Well, so the player's handbook talks about training as 250 days, 1 gold piece per day, and afterwards you have learned a new language or you gain proficiency with a new tool. You have to find an instructor, and the DM decides how long that will take and whether 1 or more ability checks are required. Xanathar's, however, describes training as at least 10 work weeks, but this is reduced by a number of work weeks equal to the character's intelligence modifier. That's strange. 25
Smart people learn things.
I don't get that. 25 gold pieces per work week, and complications, of course, typically involve the teacher. It says every the instructor disappears, or he or she trains you in a rare, archaic method. He's a spy sent to learn your plans. He's a wanted criminal. He's a cruel taskmaster. I don't know why I wrote Severus Snape in there. That's weird. Anyway, so there's complications. Every 10 work weeks, this is the Xanathars, I'm sure, brings 10 work weeks for Xanathars and 250 days for Player's Handbook. Basically, that's about it. But I feel like that cascades right into training to gain levels, right? So as a variant rule, the DMs can require training or studying before they gain the benefits of a new level. Once the character has enough experience points to get to a new level, he or she must train for a number of days before gaining any class features of that level. And the training time depends on the level to be gained. And I don't know, that's about it. It's kind of DM's call on that one there.
And there's also good old-fashioned work.
Work.
Yeah. Work sucks.
I don't know why it was working, honestly. It's like, oh, yeah, I got a job, yay. It's like,
How is that?
I'm not at my job.
Right.
I'm rolling for my job. Pretty straightforward, though. I mean, if you have a job, it will base off of some skill or attribute, and you make a check. If you do well, you make some money. If you don't do well, you don't really make no money.
How is that different from practicing a profession?
And then there's complications like getting fired.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
So let's say your character gives you something that it's not in the rules. For example, I had a good friend of mine, I DM'd him, and he said, I wanted to be a bounty hunter. And I had another, Paul actually wanted to do vigilante work. So what do? You have to come up with it. Luckily, though, there's so many different examples in Xanathar's Guide. You can combine things. Just remember the rule, though. Number 1 is what is the activity that the person is doing. 2, the resources involved. 3, resolution. How do you resolve this, and if there's a complication? So, for example, Paul wanted to do crime fighting or vigilante work. I just used the criminal activity and just changed it up and said, okay, he wants to do this Robin Hood style, so maybe he gets half the money because the other half he gives to the people. And so we worked something out there. Another one was a good friend was doing bounty hunting. Same thing. Took the same type of rules, changed it up a little bit, used different skills, and then came up with bounty hunting. So that's what we came up with.
Then you also crossed those 2 stories.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
We did do that. So as you were trying to do crime fighting, eventually, the other friend in the party, he had to go after you.
Yes. He
So
almost caught me.
You got a
He
bounty
almost
on
caught
your
you.
head.
So we found that very interesting. In fact, your character had a moniker,
Uh-huh.
right? You
Yeah.
became a. What was that? I can't remember. Well, it doesn't matter,
yeah.
right? Okay. Well, anyway, so there are a lot of things that you can do using the existing rules to come up with different downtime activities. Just remember, though, try to have the player roll a couple DCs. Don't just give it to them. Add some story into it. So that pretty much wraps up all that. So what do you guys think about the downtime? Do you recommend it? Do you like doing it?
I love
think
it.
It's fun.
I love it. And now that I know more about it, I think I
Yeah.
do a little more deeper. Like I said, I have the fighters and things, so I do the bouncing or the pit fighting or the working. But maybe, the language or a tool or crafting something or, I don't know, I can be smart. I can be a smart fighter.
Yeah.
Now that I understand it, yes,
Right.
I enjoy it, and I know what I'm doing a little bit, and it's much fun.
And I didn't realize how useful things like carousing could be.
Yeah.
To me, it
And
just
that's-
sounds
I
like,
think-
carousing, woo, and
Yeah.
but it's
No,
might
to
be
me,
important.
the real big win on downtime stuff is being able to those things that during play, instead of telling people, oh, you know this or no, you can kind of seed all that ahead of time. So it's just the player going, hey,
Right.
I know I have somebody who could help us in this situation, or oh yeah, that guy wants to kill me. I'm not going to go with you to talk to him.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you have any maybe negatives about downtime? Maybe pitfalls or things to avoid while you're doing downtime?
Don't roll badly.
Well, there's that.
That's yeah.
There's that.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's about it.
Did
You guys,
that sum it up?
Yeah, sure,
Oh,
sure. I
okay.
can't really think about what the negatives would be other than
I
maybe
believe
going
I
down-
believe my fighter character was beaten by some little halfling twerp because I rolled
there's that.
suckily.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes you might get especially if a character comes up to you or a player wants to do something that's not in the book. It's hard to come up with something. Maybe you'll have to work with the player on that one.
The other nice thing you can do with downtime is kind of draw things out a bit, so the players don't go from level 1 to level 20 in a month and a half.
Right.
You can kind of pad it in there so it's a much more plausible. Oh, we got to
Why don't you
superhero
want
status
us
in
to
like a
succeed?
year.
Right.
Don't you want us to do
like
better
with
in
the
advance?
current campaign, I used it primarily to you had in the summer, you were doing things and you finished up your adventure, and now it's turning to fall, so it can kind of quickly advance the storyline a bit.
Right.
Without just being, nothing happened for the past 2 months.
Great thing about downtime, it's one of the ways that you can actually spend your money.
Yeah.
Really, it's the only time you can spend your money.
Unless you're a wizard.
And enhance your skills. You gain proficiency in certain skills that you didn't have by doing downtime. So, anyway, we highly recommend it. I think it's fun.
Yeah.
It enhances your campaign experience, your D&D game. So, I think that's about it. You guys have anything else before we sign off?
D&D.
Yes, play more
Yeah.
D&D. So with that,
We'll
catch you later.
I finally understand downtime. I was so confused the first time we did it, and now that we've done it more than once and then talked about it, and if the rules are in 7 different books, it seems like it's great that we had this conversation because now we know what to do.
Yeah, I think it's really helpful. It really gives growth to your character.
Yeah.
I concur.
As a DM, it's kind of fun because you get to add things to it too. So kind
I'm
of add.
glad you thought it was
sort of
fun. I
stuff.
didn't know if it was like a pain in the butt.
No,
for a DM.
No, kind of cool, kind of cool. Well, speaking of D&D, today is D&D night, so we're going to sign off and go play some D&D.
We are.
And thank you to Tim and Nick with Around the Table for allowing us to podcast back here in the back room. So that's where we're at. Well, with that, did you guys have anything else before we sign off?
Disney Plus starts tomorrow.
Yes, it does. I've already signed up.
Good.
Cool.
You got that figured out?
I haven't figured out how I'm going to play it on my big TV, though.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, well. Well, you can email me, and then you can let me know. There you
ask
go.
Winston.
There you go. I'll ask my kids. Well, with that, embrace the nerd, and I hope you make that saving throw.